And now, our breaking news from around the world with our field messengers.
I'm Field Messenger Dorothy, reporting from the CHS Petroleum Refinery in Laurel, Montana. Let me give you a little background on why I'm here today. This refinery opened in 1943 and on a normal day processes over 60,000 barrels of raw crude oil into products like gas, diesel, aviation fuel, and petroleum coke, which is a production byproduct that's used as an alternative to coal. Ever since I was a child and we would drive past this refinery, there were three things I could be assured of. First of all, you could always smell it from miles away, depending on which way the wind was blowing. The horrid, acrid chemical smell that made our nostrils sting and our throats scratchy and our eyes water. We would see who could hold their breath the longest as we drove through the foggy patches of chemicals coming from the tall stacks along the highway. But today, there was no smell. Secondly, as a kid, I'd love to see the multicolored lights blinking on the refinery pipes. It was like a lit-up Christmas tree, day and night, 365 days a year. But today, no lights. Nothing was lit up. But the craziest thing I didn't see today was that there wasn't any steam billowing out of the hundreds of pipes across the campus of this refinery. Normally, there's a haze over the refinery. Today, there weren't any impressive flames shooting out of giant metal pipes, burning off combustible gases that are poisoning us. The air above the refinery was clear. Nothing was happening. The place looked deserted except for security who came checking on me. If CHS and other U.S. refineries stop processing raw crude, then we're forced to import it. And as we've seen, gasoline prices surge due to supply disruption, and that causes increase in transportation costs. And now, reliance on higher-priced foreign processed fuels, leading to increased costs for all consumer goods. We've all seen it. So, what does this all mean? You decide. I'm Field Messenger Dorothy, reporting for United Network News. Thanks for watching.
This is UNN, United Network News Field Messenger Ricky, coming from northern Indiana. And on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026, a powerful, severe weather system swept across northern Indiana, spawning multiple tornadoes and producing record-breaking hail. The storm caused significant destruction in several communities, with recovery efforts and damage assessments currently underway. A violent outbreak of severe weather on the evening of March 10th has left a path of destruction across northern Indiana. National Weather Service survey crews are currently on the ground assessing damage from at least 4 confirmed tornadoes that touched down across northern Illinois and northwest Indiana. Tragically, at least 2 fatalities have been confirmed in Lake Village, Newton County, where an elderly couple's home was destroyed and they died inside. In South Bend areas, storms brought intense winds and monster hail, while most severe structural damage was reported further west in Newton and Jasper counties. The South Bend region faced widespread power outages, downed trees, and significant property damage from hail. Record hail was produced, with reports of stones measuring 3 to 5 inches in diameter across the region, and a potential record-breaking 6-inch hailstone was recorded in nearby Kankakee, Illinois. Utility provider NIPSCO reported that over 11,000 customers lost power at the peak of the storm, with crews working through Wednesday to restore service to several still in the dark. Thank you. And this is a report from northern Indiana for United Network News. Thank you.
Back to our United Network News team, Sunny, Calen, and our field messengers for more real news from around the world.
It's Wednesday, March 18th, 2026, and here are today's stories. Police around the world have embraced so-called less lethal weapons as alternatives to guns. But in Australia, courts are now taking a hard look at whether these tools are really as safe as promised. Hospitals are supposed to help you heal, but the overuse of antibiotics is fueling a superbug crisis, bacteria that even our strongest medicines can't kill. They're a common sight in busy cities, three-wheeled pedicabs weaving through traffic. Learn how this simple, human-powered ride became a global mode of transportation. On the beaches of Fuerteventura, sand becomes something extraordinary. An Austrian artist is crafting massive sculptures that draw crowds, even though the ocean can wipe them away at any moment. In Romania, a simple circle dance has connected people for centuries. It's called the Hora, and its music and movement still brings communities together today. At Dorado Beach in Puerto Rico, brown pelicans put on a spectacular show, diving with precision to snatch fish from the sea. But sharing that coastline is an unexpected problem: invasive green iguanas. Around the world, police departments have increasingly turned to tools marked as non-lethal alternatives to firearms, from tasers and beanbag rounds to pepper spray and rubber bullets. The promise was simple: give officers options that keep both officers and civilians alive, avoid fatal shootings, and reduce the reliance on live ammunition. But reality has been messier and, in some tragic cases, deadly. Now in Australia, courts are taking a closer look at how these less lethal tools are being used and whether they're as safe as departments once claimed. The phrase less lethal sounds comforting, but it can blur reality. Rubber bullets, beanbag rounds, and tasers are meant to stop a threat without pulling a trigger, yet they still hit the body with real force. A beanbag round spreads impact across the torso, but at close range it can break ribs or cause internal bleeding. Tasers override muscle control with electricity, often preventing shootings, but carrying known risks like cardiac complications. Rubber bullets and sponge rounds can fracture bones or cause severe head and eye injuries. In fact, a global review of nearly 2,000 cases involving impact projectiles found about 3% resulted in death and 15% caused permanent disability. The risks of less lethal force were thrown into the spotlight during the Los Angeles protests in 2025, when widespread use of rubber bullets, sponge rounds, and foam launchers led to multiple serious injuries among demonstrators, bystanders, and journalists.
What weapons have LA law enforcement been using against protesters and the press in the LA riots? And should they be using them at all? Foam baton rounds launch 5 hard discs that are usually used to disperse groups. They break apart when they hit a hard surface. The LAPD also uses foam rounds, which are hard plastic bullets with a foam material at the tip. They're designed to bruise but can cause broken bones. Stun grenades create chaos through light and sound to disorient crowds. Stinger grenades produce a loud sound, then release pieces of rubber everywhere. Tear gas is a fine powder designed to irritate your skin, eyes, and nose, but can also cause other health problems. A University of Minnesota study from 2020 found that 83% of people exposed to tear gas reported reproductive health issues. All of these are known as less lethal weapons. They're designed to have temporary and reversible effects on crowds after de-escalation techniques have been used by law enforcement. But less lethal weapons are far from harmless and have been linked to serious injuries and fatalities. They've become a go-to option for law enforcement in places like America, heightening existing tensions between civilians and the police.
The fallout from the LA protests prompted a U.S. federal judge to ban the use of 40mm less lethal launchers for crowd control, ruling they had been deployed in situations where people pose no immediate threat. This case highlighted how even tools designed to reduce fatalities can cause harm if policies and oversight aren't strictly followed. And Australian courts are taking a hard look at less lethal force as well. Recent investigations and court cases have examined at least 3 recent deaths linked to taser and impact projectiles, raising questions about whether officers followed policy and considered alternatives. These cases aren't just about individual mistakes. They're testing whether the systems and oversight around so-called less lethal weapons are strong enough. Training is a critical piece of the puzzle. Experts emphasize officers need more than just technical knowledge of these tools. They need scenario-based training, crisis intervention skills, de-escalation techniques, and clear policies about when force is appropriate. Without that, even the safest technology can become dangerous. Here's a look at how law enforcement is putting these lessons into practice in Jackson County, Texas.
Good morning and welcome, everyone. I feel privileged and honored to have been invited to be in front of you today. There's a lot of experience in the room, run through scenarios that you may have encountered that where you think this technology may have been useful.
We advocate alternative ballistics because it would be a good thing for my deputies here in Jackson County. In this day and age, non-lethal is always the better way.
So the firearm converts to its less lethal once the docking system goes on the gun, just like that. Officers don't have to feel like they need to take someone's life at that moment. When they place the docking system on top of their firearm, they're making a conscious effort to de-escalate the situation at that point. No other less lethal option allows that.
Our comprehensive training program begins in the classroom with several hours of general information sharing as well as practical application in the form of manipulation of the technology with training firearms.
Gun down range. You're gonna verbalize. I'm gonna use less lethal. That way you let your partners know, hey, I'm gonna utilize less lethal if you have a partner next to you, right? Retrieve the alternative. Put it on and punch it back out. Simple, right?
The officers and or deputies, they realize how basic the maneuvers are. It's not overly complicated. After a few manipulations, they become very comfortable with.
Sheriff's office, drop the weapon.
Show me your hands, show me your hands. Drop the knife, drop the gun. Partner, I'm going less lethal.
Less lethal, less lethal.
Less lethal, less lethal.
Some officers were initially skeptical about the alternative's practicality, but after participating in training and seeing the alternative's effectiveness, they recognize how this technology can reduce lethal confrontations.
I can definitely see where we can use that in law enforcement in certain situations, especially with today's policing.
The takeaway is clear. Less lethal doesn't mean no risk. Tools can reduce certain dangers, but training, judgment, oversight, and transparency are what truly keep people safe. Labels might soften the language, but the stakes remain very real, and the push for stronger accountability continues in Australia and around the world. You'd think hospitals are the safest places to be when you're sick, but what if they're actually making you sicker? Antibiotic overuse in hospitals has become so bad, it's causing a superbug crisis. Bacteria that are so resistant, even our strongest antibiotics can't fight them off. Hospitals are supposed to be safe places to heal, but they're becoming hotspots for infections that are harder to treat, more expensive, and sometimes even impossible to cure. Antibiotics get overused in hospitals a lot, mostly because doctors are under so much pressure. Doctors are often scared of missing a potential infection, so they'll prescribe antibiotics, especially if a patient has a weak immune system. Then there's the whole just-in-case use of antibiotics. They're often given out before surgeries or other procedures to prevent infections, even when it's not really necessary. A recent Australian report found almost half of the antibiotics given to patients for surgery weren't actually needed, which is a huge amount of unnecessary antibiotic use considering how many surgeries happen every day. It's also hard to know for sure what's wrong right away. Waiting for lab results to confirm a bacterial infection can take a while. So, to be safe, doctors will often start patients on powerful, broad-spectrum antibiotics in the meantime. And when patients are sent home, They're sometimes given antibiotics they don't really need or told to take them for longer than necessary. All these problems get even worse because many hospitals don't have strong programs in place to manage and fix these prescribing habits.
One article a day. Everyone knows the rules. Here's the deal. We all know that a good thing gone too far can turn into a bad thing, and that's kind of what this study shows. It shows that emergency room providers who thought that the patient might have sepsis or could have sepsis, not septic shock or needs the ICU, but could potentially have sepsis, over-treated patients with antibiotics or gave them too broad spectrum antibiotics most of the time on admission. What's most of the time? Over 80% of the time, it was either you didn't need antibiotics or you got way too broad of a spectrum of antibiotic. Now, I think that this just goes with the metrics and all the things that we have to hit. And so what do ER providers do? They just give a broad spectrum antibiotic and admit to the hospitalist. I get it. As a hospitalist, I take these patients on with open arms. It's just something to know that this is where we've come to. And likely, unless the patient has septic shock, you probably don't need these broad spectrum antibiotics. So we can be a little bit narrower and a little more precise in our antibiotic treatment.
Every time you use antibiotics, they wipe out the weaker bacteria, but the toughest ones survive and keep growing. In time, all this overuse and misuse leads to hospital superbugs, bacteria that have become resistant to antibiotics, and they're seriously dangerous. Bacteria don't just hoard resistance for themselves either. They can actually share resistance genes with other bacteria through something called horizontal gene transfer. Or they just survive treatment, reproduce, and pass those resistant genes along to the next generation. Eventually, hospitals become breeding grounds for these superbugs. They can spread from one person to another through dirty surfaces, medical equipment, or even on healthcare workers' hands if proper hygiene isn't followed.
You go to the hospital to get better, but sometimes you can leave sicker than you came in. Hospital-acquired infections are a real and serious danger. We're talking about superbugs like MRSA and C. diff. But you are not powerless. Here's what you can do. First, watch everyone like a hawk. Did they wash their hands or use hand sanitizer before they touched you? If not, you have the right to say, "Excuse me, could you please wash your hands?" It might feel awkward, but it's your life. Second, bring your own disinfectant wipes and clean your bed rails, your remote, your overbed table. Be polite, but be vigilant. Your health depends on it.
There's also a big money side to overusing antibiotics because sometimes hospitals are actually making profits from it. In a fee-for-service system, doctors and hospitals make more money when they prescribe expensive antibiotics. This can create a temptation to overdo it with the prescriptions. Instead of going for the cheaper but still effective options, patients get hit with the costly stuff for no good reason. Another thing is what's called redundant therapy, and that's when a patient gets several different antibiotics when just one would do the job. This just adds to the cost and exposes them to more drugs than they need. The real financial threat is antibiotic resistance itself. When bacteria figure out how to beat our drugs, infections become harder and a lot more expensive to treat. When that happens, patients can end up stuck in the hospital for weeks or even months, which means bigger medical bills. They might need powerful last resort antibiotics or even experimental treatments that insurance often doesn't cover. And the human cost is even worse. More people are dying, suffering from severe complications, and living with long-term health problems. Hospitals aren't the enemy here, but when we overuse antibiotics, we're making them a much riskier place to be.
Amino acids play a vital role in maintaining your overall health and well-being. Not enough amino acids and protein daily can result in brain fog, hormone imbalances, digestive issues, cognitive function, lack of energy, lower immunity, decreased muscle strength, and much more. That's why we created our amino acid complex, packed with 21 free-form, easily digestible aminos that skip the breakdown and go straight to work energizing your mind and body. Used by athletes, vegans, and high performers. New Earth's amino acid complex helps your mind and body recover, rebuild, and renew daily. Subscribe now and optimize your life.
Hey, I'm Kirsten from Switzerland.
This is Wayne from Tucson.
Hi, my name is Desmond from Ghana.
I am Claudia from Dawsonville, Georgia.
I'm Mikey from Pretoria, South Africa.
Hi, I'm Steve McGrath, Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada.
People from all around the world are coming together.
Happy day, beautiful world. We are here in a rather small urban garden, and this video is just to show you the joys that we've had in this garden with the electric gardening.
When news happens in their area, they show us what's really going on.
We have people in the streets protesting for and against.
At United Network News, our field messengers are changing the face of news.
This is Field Messenger Helen reporting with Nature, and I'm going to talk to you about the bees again.
Take the next step in restoring our planet. Become a UNN Field Messenger today.
Hi, I'm Stephanie from South Africa. If it's going to be, it's up to me.
If it's going to be, it's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to me. It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to all of us. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news.
Ever wondered about those three-wheeled, human-powered vehicles you see going around busy cities? You might know them as rickshaws or pedicabs, and they've actually been around for a really long time. They first showed up in Japan back in the late 1800s as hand-pulled carts, decades before cars became common. These days, you'll spot them everywhere, from tourist hotspots to jam-packed urban neighborhoods all over the world. In time, these vehicles have evolved quite a bit to fit different needs and technologies. Cycle rickshaws, basically bicycles with passenger seats, became very popular across South Asia. In fact, Dhaka is often called the world's rickshaw capital, with estimates of up to 1 million of them on the streets. Motorized versions like auto rickshaws or tuk-tuks are common in India, Thailand, and parts of Africa. And now you even have modern electric pedicabs for short trips and sightseeing tours in big cities like New York, Berlin, and London. With more pedicabs on the streets, cities are facing new challenges. These vehicles can slow down traffic and create congestion, especially since city roads weren't built for them. It's common to see them blocking sidewalks or storefronts, which creates a headache for businesses and messes with modern transportation flow. To get a handle on this, governments are starting to bring in new laws. These regulations vary a lot, but usually cover things like driver licensing, vehicle registration, and setting limits on where they can operate. For instance, the New York City Department for Consumer and Worker Protection caps licensed pedicabs at about 840 and requires operators to display fare information, while London plans to launch a new regulatory system in October 2026.
So what we need are fair fares. Well, I bumped into a couple of tourists who come to London, had a lovely ride on that, and then the pedicab driver was demanding £580 to cycle from Old Street to Oxford Circus. Now that's a 20-minute bike ride. £580 is extortionate. We're going to bring in fair pricing. We're going to make sure the vehicles are safe for people using them. The drivers themselves have got criminal records checks, and the vehicles have insurance. So if something happens, people are covered. We need to professionalize this to make sure it works for people, that they can enjoy going around and have a bit of fun too.
Research shows many drivers work in the informal economy and don't make much money at all. Some cycle rickshaw drivers in India, for instance, might make only $5 to $10 a day, according to the International Labor Organization. And that's often after they've already paid a daily rental fee for their vehicle. On top of the low pay, the work can be genuinely dangerous. They're sharing the road with cars, buses, and trucks, but they're moving way slower and have basically no physical protection if something goes wrong. And with no dedicated parking spots, drivers often have to stop wherever they can, risking fines or complaints. Although most drivers rent their pedicabs, some own their equipment and work independently. It requires strategy, serious endurance, and solid people skills to attract customers and negotiate fares.
Hey, bro, what's your name?
Dioni's Pedicab, New York City.
Dioni. How much does it cost to start a business like this?
It depends, because you have to have insurance, you gotta have plate, you gotta have license.
So what does a bike cost?
The bike costs like $9,000 to $10,000.
Wow. And insurance, how much?
Insurance like $4,000
For a year?
for a year.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you make it, sometimes we don't.
How long are you doing it for?
13 years.
You start, so your own business?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Do you
I
recommend other people doing it?
Well, this is, if you like to make honest money, you should. If you don't, I don't think this is the right spot, because look, I'm here in the rain and still trying to make it happen, you know?
What percent of the people work in the rain?
Like maybe, like I said, like 30% of the people work in the rain.
The rest stay home.
Yeah.
Passengers can run into problems too, especially when pricing isn't clear or when drivers haven't been properly trained. For example, some tourists in New York City have reported being charged hundreds of dollars for short pedicab rides in Central Park, a problem that led to new rules requiring operators to clearly display fares. Rickshaws and pedicabs are still a big deal for getting around cities all over the world. They're great for short trips and in places with narrow streets where cars can't easily go. Not only that, but they also provide jobs for millions of people and are way better for the environment than taxis and cars.
On the beaches of Fuerteventura, sand turns into stunning works of art. UNN Field Messenger Emma introduces Austrian sand artist David Schmidhofer, who crafts incredible sculptures, drawing crowds that admire his unique talent.
Hi, my name is Emma. I'm a field messenger for United Network News, reporting from Fuerteventura, Spain in Europe. This report is going to be about sand art on the beaches of Fuerteventura. The beach and the beach walk attracts a lot of tourists during the tourist season, and this is an opportunity for people to earn some extra income. During the day, the beaches are occupied by families. They are sunbathing, swimming, having picnics, and the children are playing with each other. But at night, the beaches are almost empty. This is when the sand artist takes over the arena. This is the time where they earn the most amount of money. The idea is that people take pictures of their sculptures and leave a donation at the collection point. Sand artists are practices of modeling sand into artistic forms such as sand sculpture on the beach. And most sand sculptures are built on sandy beaches with two basic building ingredients, sand and water, are available in abundance. Most beaches on Fuerteventura have fine-grained sand, and it's perfect for the artistic creativity, like making sand sculptures. I love sculptures made by artist David Schmidhofer. He is seen on the city beach almost every day during the winter, where he creates a new piece of art every day. I had the pleasure of talking to him one day on the busy city beach in Coralejo for a short interview.
My name is David. I'm 44 years old. I come from Austria, and I'm here in the winter for 2 or 3 months to make sand sculptures.
So what is the secret of having a good sculpture? Do you have to make a new one every day, or?
Yes, you have to make a new one every day because you have to leave the place empty and clean. Otherwise, the next person, there are other sculptors too, and the next morning they might not be sure if they can come and build something or not. So
you have to be early to get a good spot.
Yes, it depends. Here, this spot is a very good spot, and you have to be early, that's true. But there are other spots where you can just come whenever you want, because they are not so popular.
Normally, shovels and buckets are the main construction tools that he uses in the creation of his sand sculptures. For larger construction, artists use water from the sea to mix with the sand, sometimes from other materials such as wood or plastic or constructed things to hold the sand in place in a specific shape. David uses mostly his hands and makes sure that the sculpture is moist so that it doesn't fall apart. Sand artists get a lot of fresh air, a lot of grounding, and lead a social life talking to people who passes by every day. So this is the perfect job for David. Thank you very much for watching, and hope you liked the report, and see you next time. Bye.
For centuries, the traditional dance known as the Hora has been an integral part of the Romanian culture. It connects people in a powerful way that brings joy and unity. UNN Field Messenger Monica shares what makes this dance so special.
Hi, this is Monica from Constanța in Romania, Field Messenger for United Network News, and I wanted to present you Hora, H-O-R-A, the traditional Romanian dance that embodies life. It is the oldest and most widespread folk dance. It is assumed that Hora is more than 6 millennia old. Passed down from generation to generation, this traditional Romanian folk dance gathers the whole community in a big circle. The dancers hold hands, taking 3 steps forward and 1 step back, at the same time spinning the circle, basically counterclockwise. The steps are simple, the rhythm is appropriate, so anyone can dance Hora. The Hora symbolizes a perfect world full of light. The elegance of the dancer's body and his Hora steps create an ascension towards divinity, a confidence in a happy future, a prayer to the universe, and ensures the unity between heaven and earth. Ceremonies related to work and the fertility of the land, birth, engagement, marriage, were accompanied by the Hora dance. Hora thus becomes a true way of collective spiritual elevation. Thank you for watching. Bye.
At Dorado Beach, Puerto Rico, nature takes center stage. UNN Field Messenger Amy shares incredible footage of the brown pelican's precision fishing and sheds light on the challenges posed by invasive green iguanas.
Hi, Amy here for UNN with a report from Dorado Beach, Puerto Rico. Today I would like to share this amazing footage of one of nature's most efficient and fascinating fishing birds, the brown pelican. The pelican is prehistoric-like in appearance, not just because of its large heavy body and massive wingspan, but also because of its enormous bill and stretchy throat pouch hanging beneath it, giving it a distinct silhouette. This pouch is called a gular pouch and can hold up to 3 gallons of water. The gular pouch is not used to store fish as many believe. Instead, it functions as a built-in fishing net. The pelican is found on every continent except Antarctica and has perfected a method of catching fish that is remarkably precise. When it hunts from heights up to 60 feet, it doesn't hesitate. The bird folds itself into a spear and plunges headfirst into the sea with a dramatic plunge diving technique. Just before impact, air sacs beneath its skin inflate slightly to cushion the blow. And at the last second, it opens its bill so the pouch fills with water and fish. It doesn't swallow immediately. Instead, it tilts its head downward and contracts the pouch, squeezing out gallons of seawater, keeping the fish trapped inside. Only then does it toss its head back and swallow its catch whole. Efficient, elegant, and perfectly designed for coastal life. And speaking of coastal wildlife, these green iguanas on Dorado Beach are not native to Puerto Rico, but are an introduced species brought in from Central and South America during the pet trade of the 1970s. With Puerto Rico's warm climate and lack of natural predators, this iguana population has exploded. Today, they're considered an invasive species, destroying crops and disrupting local ecosystems. While they've become a common sight, lounging on beaches and rooftops, they pose real infrastructure and environmental challenges for the island. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
UNN is changing the face of news. Join us for our weekly Field Messenger meetings and learn how you can make a difference. Visit unitednetwork.earth for more information. Thanks for watching.